Welcome to Dyed Green. I'm Kate McCabe.
And I'm Max Sussman.
Max, do you realize this is the 50th episode of Dyed Green?
I did realize that, but...
We've come so far.
Yes. I don't know how many podcasts make it to 50 episodes, but we've got to be in a very slim minority. Right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. First of all, when we started Dyed Green, I had no idea how many episodes we would make, but one thing that's revealed itself to be true is that really there is no end in sight for the number of really interesting, incredible, talented, and fun to talk to people in Ireland. Like, we just keep going, and it seems like there's this endless list of people that we haven't yet spoken to that we're really excited to talk to. And it's fun. The more we do the show, the more we get to know all the exciting stuff that's happening through the people we speak to.
Yeah, there's definitely a list of people, some of whom I think we've known personally for years that we still haven't had on the show. Unless you think we skipped anyone, there's certain people we regularly email who don't email us back. So if you think there's any obvious oversights, it's not our fault.
Well, anyways, it's been a great 50 episodes, and we are super excited about the next 50. Can't wait to get to 100 and have a giant party somewhere that we'll invite all you to, and it's going to be great. So thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of the podcast, and thanks for your continued support and sharing episodes with your friends and signing up for the feed and leaving us good reviews and all that cool stuff.
No, that's a good thing to say. I'm just saying, like, do we even have one review?
I have no idea. I just hear other people say it on their podcast intros, and I feel like we should do it too.
If you like our podcast, leave us 5 stars on Apple Reviews.
No, but actually do that.
But actually do it. Our guests on today's show are Anne and Orla O'Carroll. They are the women behind Valentia Island Vermouth, which is incredibly delicious.
Yeah, we've been drinking it for years and finally got a chance to speak to the creators, and it was, as usual, a really fun, great conversation, and just great to hear their journey from going through coming up with the idea to taking it to production and out to the market and all the steps that happened in between.
I think their story is really inspiring, especially as people that didn't kind of come up as bartenders or weren't already working in the spirits or drinks industry. They came up with this idea for a vermouth and they tested it out at home. It took them a long time, and they came up with this recipe, and they've been really successful. And I think once you get to try their vermouth, you'll see why. It's incredibly delicious and drinkable.
Yeah, and then they gave us some tips at the end for
our marriage.
For how to work together with your partner. So,
we're hanging on by a thread, folks.
Stay tuned for that niche content, if that applies to you.
Thanks for listening, and here's our show.
How are you all doing today?
Good, thank you. Very good. Yeah, we are here in our Vermouthery in County Kerry. So, as usual, it's raining. But you guys know that because of what you do. So, yeah, it's a grand soft day, is what we'd say.
That's great. Well, thank you both so much for coming on Dyed Green. We're really excited to talk to you about Valentia Island and to hear your story.
Thank you, Max. Yeah, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you, Kate. We are super excited about Bog and Thunder and everything that you guys do as well. So,
thank you.
Yeah, I'm really interested in hearing more about that too.
Cool. Absolutely. Do you want to kick things off?
Yeah. Well, we wanted to start off by just talking about vermouth and why vermouth. I think I am sort of a lightweight when it comes to drinking, so I'm usually pretty careful about what I drink. And I was introduced to your vermouth by a friend of ours, and it's super delicious and really easy drinking. And I really love it.
She can't get enough.
Yeah, we managed to smuggle a couple of bottles home with us the last time we were in Ireland. But I was just wondering if you could start off talking about why vermouth, because it does seem like there are a lot of independent distilleries opening up all over Ireland, but most of them are, doing, if not whiskey, then gin and maybe vodka.
Yeah, like I think to start off with about vermouth, it is the best drink. I think once you discover vermouth, like you just can't look back. So the way it came about that we discovered vermouth properly, like I come from a bit of a catering background. I'm from Bristol in the UK. So I knew about vermouth anyway because of like cocktails and all that sort of jazz. But I got invited along to like a vermouth tasting, like a sort of catering vermouth tasting, and we got sort of presented with all these like sipping vermouths, like sort of Cocky, Regal Rogue, Antica Formula, and all this sort of stuff. And I came back to Orla, and I was just like, "Holy moly!" We're like, this is definitely something we have to make.
She was drunk.
Hammered. I didn't do it in moderation, unfortunately, Kate. That day, I went full force. But it was really cool, and I think from that it changed our lives from that point on, really. And I think it's from that point on in Bristol and sort of going across Spain, like to Barcelona and stuff like that. We were just trying as much vermouth as possible to sort of understand it. And then as soon as we moved to Valentia Island, we basically just instantly started playing around with different flavors that were on the island. But like as you say, Kate, one of the absolute joys of vermouth is that it sits between sort of 14% and say 21%. It has to as a vermouth, and that is gorgeous because you can just have it over ice, and it isn't this sort of like punchy drink at 40%, and you can just sip away on it really easily, or have like a vermouth and tonic instead of a gin and tonic, and it's just like half the strength. Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely delicious. And like, I think that is why it's so wonderful, or why it's been taken up so well, because it's so versatile as a drink. Do you know, kind of thing? Like, it's so, as Anna was saying, that you can have it as a vermouth and tonic, or a vermouth and soda water to make it a long drink, or a spritz with any sparkling wine, so Prosecco or Cava. Or, of course, it's in 3 of the most ordered cocktails in the world. So it's in martinis, Manhattans and Negronis, do you know, kind of thing. So you can kind of really you can have 4 drinks the night before that are vermouth and tonics, and wake up the next day only having had 2 gin and tonics, according to your girl maths, and according to your hangover, and you can, or you can go the complete opposite way and have it in cocktails and definitely feel it the next day. Do you know, kind of thing. So yeah, I think that's what's so interesting about it, that it allows lots of different occasions to have the drink, and it allows lots of different experiences to kind of have the drink.
Yeah.
So going back to what you were saying, when you discovered a love of vermouth, were you already working together? Can you tell us a little bit about your personal story as well, and then how you ended up on the island making the vermouth?
Yeah,
there?
of course. So yeah, it was about, I'd say, 8 years ago, I'd say, that you went to that vermouth tasting.
Yeah.
And we were together in Bristol, and we met in art school. So we used to have, one of the reasons why we're interested in Bog and Thunder is that we used to create immersive theatre experiences with food. So that was our business back in the UK. And so they were really kind of fun. You know, there was kind of a comedy edge to them. They didn't take themselves too seriously, because I think sometimes the word immersive experience can maybe tend to think that it takes itself quite seriously, but ours purposely didn't. And so we'd like take over the Bristol was like an urban setting, so we'd take over the 5th story of a multi-story car park and turn it into a 1950s roller derby diner kind of experience, kind of thing, with like loads of hot rods and just like roller derby going on around the outside of the diners and things like that. So, and we take over a disused church, and we did a Beetlejuice event, and people ate like crisped crickets and pistachios dipped in liquid nitrogen, so when they ate them, smoke came out of their mouth, and you know, this kind of stuff. So it was kind of like theatre setting, theatre in the food, and then immersed in the actual, like, the acting that was going on. So yeah, we had that in the UK for 5 years, and then uh, within that time we got married in Valentia. My parents are from Kerry, and so the county where Valentia Island is in County Kerry, so just off the southwest coast of Ireland. So it's kind of like the toes of Ireland kind of thing, and it is beautiful. It's like so, it's windy, it's rugged. There's a few days of sunshine, and they are the golden days when the sun comes out. It's absolutely beautiful. The winter here is still gorgeous. It's all kind of like rugged and windswept and things, and then the summer is like verdant wild beauty, full of flowers and all that kind of thing. So my dad is a beekeeper. So when we started the vermouth, Dad would text and say, try the heather in the vermouth, try the gorse, try the angelica, whatever flower was out, because he knew the plants from the bees. So that's kind of how we kind of that's how our plant knowledge grew, so to speak. I had some anyway because of Dad, but then together we kind of learned it when we moved over. So yeah, the bottle itself tells a story of our. I'm just going to grab a bottle. Oh yeah.
You grab one
Thank
too.
you. And so the bottle itself tells a story. So I'll show you guys. But okay, so this is the lighthouse in Valencia where Anna and I got married in 2018. And then down in the Mermaid's Tails, there's a secret little O and an A in the Mermaid's Tails for me, Orla, and Anna. And then all the 20 botanicals, it's a secret recipe, but they're actually all just on the bottle.
Oh
So
my goodness.
yeah, so if there's any kind of botanist around, you've
They're
got
giving
our
away all the secrets in the show.
absolutely, you've got our recipe now. So yeah.
How do you gather? So I'm interested in like the production process. Like, how do you gather the botanicals, and is that still like something that happens through like a very informal foraging process, or is it more kind of commercialized now? And then where does the bottling actually happen?
So gorse is our major botanical that comes from Valentia. So that's very much still foraged here. And then there's other botanicals in there like cinnamon and nutmeg and things like that, spices that we obviously have to bring in because they don't grow here and things. And then our wine is a Verdejo grape that we bring in from the Rueda Valley, so kind of like northwest of Madrid kind of thing. And it's organic and vegan. So ultimately, what we do is we bring in our wine. Then we steep our 20 plants and herbs. So there's rosemary in there, there's angelica seed, there's gorse, cinnamon, nutmeg. So different kind of like spices, sweeter kind of flowers, and then like bitter kind of things. Like there has to be wormwood in there for it to be called vermouth, and this kind of stuff. So kind of bitter ones as well. So when you taste our vermouth, as you probably know, you get sweetness first of all, and then you get the bitter, dry notes kind of coming in, and that's from those kind of bitter botanicals. So going back to how we make it. So we've got our wine, we've got our 20 plants and herbs, and they're steeping in a neutral grain alcohol. So the flavor is being pulled out of each one of those plants and herbs. And then we make a deep dark caramel, and get it until it's very nearly burnt. And we pour it out and crack it back into the wine. So that's our kind of.
And that caramel is really cool, actually. So, like, it does loads of jobs. It gives it really nice colour, as well as all the different botanicals add to the colour. It gives it a really nice mouth feel, and then it also gives it a really nice sort of unique taste profile. Because if you're just adding sugar, that's just sweetness. Whereas this is like got such a depth of flavour, the caramel. So it's cool.
That's really interesting. So is that I actually like don't know much about the vermouth making process. Is that fairly traditional?
Well,
Like what part of your product differs, I guess, from like something that people would be having more experience tasted?
yeah,
Tasting.
like they're so interesting. When we were first exploring it, there's so many different ways of making vermouth. So
like for instance, we steep all our botanicals individually, but a lot of people might steep all the botanicals in the wine and then heat the wine up to a certain temperature and let it cool down and then remove the botanicals from there. You can do it so that you steep all the botanicals together instead of doing them individually. There's just like there's loads of different ways of adding sugar. There's obviously loads of the wine, we all know how many different types of wine there are. Wine is like 75% of vermouth. So if you're changing the wine, you're changing the whole flavor profile. So that's really cool that you've got like all these different grapes and varieties and colors of wine to sort of play around with. So yeah, like if you're experimenting making vermouth, just go to town on it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like it reminds me of gin in that like there's just such a range of like flavor profiles and ways of making it that is still considered gin.
It's cool in a way like that vermouth sort of complements so many of the other Irish brands that are around the place as well. You're talking about gin, like we've got juniper and coriander in our vermouth, so like it works with it. So like you can, I don't know how many times we used to have gin and tonics at home, but now like it's not just a GT, it's a GVT.
Yeah.
It's a gin vermouth and tonic. Like it's totally they work together as one. It's not one or the other. And then obviously like with Manhattans, a nice rye whiskey or whatever whiskey you want to use. It's really sound, and like we've really answered a lot of bartenders' prayers, I suppose, because we're suddenly an Irish vermouth, and we've answered that little gap there. Because to make all Irish Negronis and all Irish Manhattans is a really cool thing to be able to, as an offering. So, and we're super proud of the flavour profile and how it sort of complements those drinks. So it's cool. Yeah.
The first time I had it I think it was served with, I don't know if it was sparkling water or tonic and a slice of orange, which was super delicious. But I'm curious as to whether when you decided that you were going to move to Kerry, were you already planning on making vermouth, or was that something that you came up with after you moved? And if so, how did you get started? Beyond coming up with the recipe for the blend, how did you kind of get off the ground?
Well, the thing that springs to mind there is that when I did the vermouth tasting in Bristol, that was really cool, and that sparked something off. But it was when we moved to Valentia that we had the space, literally the physical space and the brain space and everything in order to even sort of get our heads around making a vermouth. So it was like an instant thing. It was like as soon as we were in our cottage, like it was just started happening, didn't it? Like and yeah, with your dad texting and stuff like that, and sort of saying, like, cool, like the heather's kicking around and the gorse and stuff. So like it's so funny. Our kitchen just sort of really slowly, like there were sort of jam jars of just like gorse, like just sort of steeping in vodka, and we give them a little shake every day and a little taste to see what was going on, and like our kitchen just sort of turned into sort of like a science lab, didn't it? And then we were sort of like trying out different sugar stuff, so we were sort of making caramel, trying different wines. It was good. It was really good crack, but it took a long, I don't know.
It took 18 months, I think.
Cool.
To get the recipe right.
Yeah, so it took a long time because, when you're messing around with flavours like gentian and wormwood and stuff like that, like they're really potent. And if you get things like that wrong or in too much quantity, you're sort of starting from scratch again as well. So it's all just trial and error. And we'd been tasting it so much, like, you don't quite know where your head's at after a while. And we had a friend of ours come over, Tilly from Bristol, and we were like, come on, Tilly, like
she'd know her stuff.
Yeah, she's like a super taster. So we were like, okay, let's, like, she's coming from nothing here, so she's tasting it, and she just gave it the double thumbs up.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay.
You're onto something.
Yeah. We had kind of bamboozled ourselves, I think. Also, it was like COVID, so it was like lockdown times, and we had quite a strict lockdown in Ireland. So, there was some times that you weren't allowed absolutely go for the 5K from your house, or 2K from your house actually at one stage. So that was fine because we were on Valentia Island, you know, kind of thing. And it was absolutely beautiful. The 5K from our house is absolutely gorgeous, and so is 2K from our house. So we were like, we felt very healthy, happy, and lucky through that whole time. But at the same time, it did mean that we did have time, you know, to play around with lots of different kind of flavors and lots of different options. And, you know, I don't know what it was like for you guys, but for us in Ireland, like everyone started making sourdough. And we really the same. But
Oh, yeah.
but we made vermouth. So it was kind of yeah. So it was, and then we launched in COVID. So we launched in 2021. So it was still very much in Ireland anyway. It was still very much that kind of lockdown period. And so for that reason, on trade hadn't really kicked off after the kind of 2 years-ish of COVID lockdowns. So we were very much in high-end retail shops when we launched, so on the shelves of those. And it was that kind of like, I understand that all our trends have changed anyway since all COVID and lockdowns and everything like that. But ultimately, that home drinker is like who likes to entertain at home and who likes cocktails and, you know, like has a few people over and things like that. That is like very much still the person who buys our vermouth from those lovely retail kind of places here. So, yeah.
What is the landscape like for women distillers in Ireland? It's my understanding that there are some women who are, you know, working maybe for larger companies, but are there other independently owned, like women-owned distilleries? And what's it like to be a woman in it seems to be a male-dominated industry?
Like the food and drink industry in Ireland is really supportive. You know, the kind of like there's an awful lot of really, really good artisan products coming out of Ireland. And, you know, we have only been met with support and open doors. You know, just like everywhere, you know, kind of like there's potentially space now for women to take up some room where there wasn't room before for them. So like we have experienced nothing but support from the Irish food and drinks industry. There's some great women producers from Ireland. So there's Muff Liquor up in Donegal, and that's gin, and I think that she does
Gin, vodka and whiskey.
And she does whiskey as well.
Yeah.
Cool. There's Beara Bitters, who are Bitters Company, and that's Mary O'Sullivan. And then there's also
Still Garden
Distillery in Dublin. There's Skellig 618 in Kerry. So there's just lots and lots and lots. There's other people over in Dingle, and yeah, and that's only a few. There's Bowen Distillery. So there's lots. We also have
it's like our next 6 episodes of. That's great. Thank you.
There you go. But yeah,
I mean,
definitely. If you want to shout, just give us a shout, and we can definitely give you a more substantial list as such.
Nice. That's great. So going back to the sort of like R&D product testing phase, so that, you know, you're doing that for about 18 months. Like, how do you make the jump from being like, wow, this tastes really good, to having a product that is somewhat mass produced, and the beautiful label and consistent and distribution, all that, you know, obviously some of that comes with time, but like, what was it like? And maybe tell a little bit of that part of the story of the next phase.
It was really cool, actually. So, because we'd never obviously started a drinks business before, and an immersive theatre company, and food's very different. So the thing that really helped us out was the shopping chain, Super Value. They do something called Food Academy, and that's basically like a sort of it's a startup thing where they get loads of mentors and stuff like that to help you get from an idea you've got on your kitchen table to putting it on the shelf. So as long as you've sort of got your product ready to go, they help you with things like barcodes. What the hell do you do with barcodes? And they can also suggest some branding companies that you can use for your product, and because that's obviously highly important to get correct. And yeah, something about the branding as well. So Orla and I, as we say, come from a sort of artistic background, so we did know that needed to be spot on, and like that journey of knowing what it was going to look like picking the bottle, picking the cork, do you know, like the little taper seal that goes over it, all this sort of stuff. We worked with a company called Bullseye in Cork, and they were absolutely incredible. But like that process, working with the designer, was really interesting, and then we got it to a certain point and we were like, actually, let's push it a little bit more. And we got an illustrator involved, and that just gave it an extra little dimension. A guy called Steve Dugan, who lives in Dublin, he's absolutely amazing. So it was it was just constant learning, you know. It was just like, oh my God, and another thing. And then there was all other sorts, because starting up an alcohol business as well, you have to deal with the revenue as well. So like you have to be able to have a bonded warehouse, which is like an archaic system that goes back from, I don't know, thousands of years ago, that making sure that everyone pays the right amount of tax on your product and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, like it was just,
The Food Academy was amazing.
Yeah, probably a big learning curve for a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And they really do like get you to shelf, you know, kind of thing. So I think that was wonderful for us. After that, then we did some other courses as well. And there was one with Enterprise Ireland and Board Bia and Teagasc, and that was like Foodworks. And again, it was kind of, you were already set up at that stage, but it was just like the next stage again after that, and like kind of, you know, making sure that you're kind of talking to the right people and things like that. So yeah.
I don't know if we're jumping too far into the future or present, but it's my understanding that you have plans to, or you're in the process of selling in the United States.
yeah.
How is that going?
Yeah, it's really cool. Like we've just got some funding through from Enterprise Island, which we've got a big green button and we've just pressed it. And that means that we can now start doing all the things that we need to do to get it over to the US. So we're engaging with an importer and a distributor. So it's happening, which is
That's
so
exciting.
So
exciting.
exciting.
Yeah.
So we're hoping we'll be
And Tales of Cocktail in New
nice.
Orleans. Yeah.
yeah.
So, and then after that, we're not too, maybe autumn will be launched.
Yeah.
Is that, I know that these things work through distributors in different regions of the US, have different distribution companies, but when you're on the producer's end, do you sort of pick the key markets that you want to be in, or is it just all come through what the distributor
We're
does?
definitely picking the key markets to begin with, because we're a small brand, you know, kind of thing. So there's only so much that we can make and do and everything like that. So we'll be in NYC and DC first, and then we'll be moving presumably in the East Coast, like staying there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's really cool. So I don't know if you know too much about it, but like, yeah, you have to treat every state as a separate country as such. So you can't just come into the US. So it's which is really handy, to be fair, because like that's some undertaking, isn't it? Just like coming straight into the US market. It's like put it into bite-sized chunks. Like it sounds fine. Just 2 states for now.
Yeah.
A little more manageable start to things.
Yeah.
We've experienced that with trying to get wine. It's the same.
Yeah.
Basically, you know, each importer is more or less, some of them end up working in multiple states or regions, but just because something's available in one state doesn't mean you can find it in another state, which I guess kind of keeps things interesting, but it can be challenging if you're trying to build a wine list in a state that's not New York or California. It's a little different.
As a consumer in the States, and if you were to buy online, are you able to just buy across the whole States online, or again, is that, are you limited to like your state or just a few states?
It's pretty strict, as I
Yeah.
believe. Like they don't like it when you're
Like we
skirting
have,
those laws.
yeah, like we have a friend, we know some friends who make wine in Australia, and you can buy their wine in a few shops in the country, but there's, one called Astor Wines in New York City, which is a pretty big liquor store. And I think if you lived in New York, you could maybe buy it and have it shipped to you, but you wouldn't be able to buy it and have it shipped to, say, Michigan or Texas or something like that. They wouldn't. I actually found out I tried to, silly me, I tried to send someone like a bottle of whiskey a couple years ago as like a thank you, and I didn't know that you couldn't just send a bottle of alcohol through
Go
the
to the
mail.
post office and
Yeah, I did. And I got turned away.
Oh no!
can't do that.
So needless to say, that person did not receive that bottle.
No.
So
Because like sometimes what
Yeah.
happens here, I don't know if this is the same as well, but what happens here is that, like, let's say if we get a gift from any of our family or friends that live in the UK, because they're not in the EU anymore, you get a gift from them, but when it arrives on your doorstep, you have to pay customs. So like and you're like,
Yeah.
because it hasn't been like sorted out or whatever. So would that happen as well? So if your whiskey had got to your friend, would they have had to pay, like, I don't know what the word is, but some kind of customs on it?
Not from inside the U.S., but
Yeah, I don't
there
think
have
so.
some exceptions. Like I was reading about it because obviously there's tariffs are in the news, right? And so I was really curious about what was actually happening. But there's like certain dollar amounts that are exempted from having to like go through all that paperwork.
Yeah.
So you can receive a gift or buy a product, and it's like if it's below a certain dollar amount, it's just kind of swept through basically.
Well, then of course you could
But if it's
also
like more than I think it's like a couple $100, or maybe it was like $600 from China or something like that is what I was reading. But who knows what it'll be like next week? So hopefully
Yeah.
that is not an issue for you all.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know, yeah, we're hoping that too.
Fingers crossed.
I said it to Anna, like, what would we do? And Anna was like, we don't know any different. I was like, oh yeah, good
Yeah.
point.
So, yeah.
What can anyone do?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I feel like even the biggest industries and the biggest importers don't actually know what to do because it changes from day to day. So how could how could the little guys have any real idea of like how to anticipate any of this stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you guys have any vermouths that we need to know about?
that you like.
Yeah, that you like.
Ooh.
That we might not know about.
yours is the only one that I drink. So
Okay.
that's a Max.
Nice one.
That's a Max question.
Great.
We'll do a little market research and
Yeah.
figure out like what the cool little vermouths are. Not that you're little, but
Yeah.
Brilliant.
independent. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, it's always cool. Like, there's some really cool like vermoutheries sort of popping up over the UK and stuff like that, and it's been a cool journey to talk to them as well. Like, it's again, it's not a closed off thing, Like you're like, I'm not too sure how to do this, and people are well up for chatting, and they've got different ways of making it. It's a cool little
that's awesome.
community. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. Very supportive.
Yeah. I mean, the technical process of making vermouth is like, as far as like setting up shop in the first place, it's like maybe a little bit simpler than a distillery because you're fortifying the wine, or the wine that you get is already
No,
fortified.
it's normal wine that comes in. So we fortify it when we put in
Okay.
the botanicals, because they're steeping it in alcohol, so that strengthens the overall alcohol of the end product. But you're right. It's like, like we didn't need to buy a still. We didn't, there was all this stuff. But I think that that's because of like we were just making it kind of thing. So like, as in like I think our process is probably quite convoluted, and I'd say it probably can absolutely be streamlined. But like, there's a bit of magic in those kind of like artisan processes that are there's something that happens within that like time frame of something not being so automated, and I think that is
kind of interesting when you talk about things being handcrafted and things that like it's hard to describe, but something does get lost in automation, and it is that hand human touch or something like that. But like our process has, as Anna was talking about, those jam jars in the kitchen table that were, you know, just jam jar size. And so they are now just really big vessels, do you know, kind of thing. So like, so which is wonderful. But like, because of that, we didn't have to spend any money when we were starting on big equipment, you know, kind of
Just bigger and bigger jars.
yeah, just bigger and bigger jars.
Just this big screw.
Yeah, yeah. When I met Anna first, right? So this is like before we got together, and Anna was doing. We met in art school, so Anna was like focusing on sculpture, and so I'd go into her sculpture studio, and there would be like just lots and lots of different materials. So there'd be like concrete, like kind of like setting, there'd be some bronze going on, there'd be other stuff, there'd be stone, there, all of these like big 3D kind of materials like happening, and then at the end of it would be some beautiful sculptures, and so it was very kind of process led, and so Anna makes it, and so when I see Anna making the vermouth, it just reminds me of that exact setting, except the materials are different, do you know, kind of thing. And the end product isn't a sculpture, it's a beautiful bottle of vermouth. But it's this kind of like, this equals this equals this. I think it's kind of very, I think the word art is big in our, when we say that it's an artisanal brand, you know, kind of thing. I think it's very much in there.
So then is it just mainly the two of you that are actually producing it, or do you have other people that are working with you?
Yeah, we do. We've got an amazing lady called Elisa, and she is just, I couldn't sing her praises enough. Like, so before Elisa came on board sort of full time, it was a case of making it, trying to send emails and just trying to do everything. And it was like, you know, there's caramel cooking on the thing. You're like, whoa, what's going on here? So to have a hand doing all that stuff has been incredible. So there's the three of us full time. And then with the US plans this year as well, we'll be looking to take on someone else as well. So
we also have somebody who interns with us from the university in Cork, and so they're doing, it's a really good course that they do, and it's like food entrepreneurship, I think. And so they do an internship with us in brand ambassador. So so we have somebody for about 5 months every year as well, helping us with that kind of outward facing stuff. And then also we do lots of events, and then we have lots of team helping us with those as well. Yeah. Mainly youngsters from Valentia Island who are back from college for the summer.
Yeah. How big is the population there on the island?
So Google says it's 600, but it's not. It's less than that in the winter. But like it is, we did grow quite a lot in COVID, I think, didn't we? A lot of people kind of moved down. There'd be a lot of holiday homes, so a lot of people moved down to their holiday homes and stayed. So that was really good. And then a lot of people, you know, like moved. A good few kind of 30-somethings moved back, didn't they? From, you know, they were away for college or for university. They had met their partner, and so they moved back. And it's such a safe, beautiful environment that, you know, everyone's, we have a baby boom on the island. And there is basically 10 babies being born within this year, which is huge for the primary school.
I bet, yeah.
But
wow.
I don't know if this is a Max type segue, but speaking of babies, it's my understanding that you have 2 new varieties that you're going to be adding to the
nice
family.
That was smooth.
That was so smooth. Yes, we have. There will be, hopefully by this year, we'll have the Rua, which is a red vermouth. So, sorry, red in Irish is Rua. And so there'll be the Rua, which is red vermouth. And that is like 85% ready, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's taking its time, but just because we've got so much going on. And ultimately the kind of tastes of that one are dark chocolate, vanilla, and rose. So
Wow.
that's going to be
Sounds amazing.
yeah, it's going to be delicious. And then there's some other, that's the one at the moment really that we're working on. In the future, there'll be a Bourne. So Bourne in Irish is white, and so that will be the dry vermouth. That won't be out for another year or so, I'd say.
And we want that sort of like taste of the island. So
Yeah.
like, you know, oyster shells and I don't know, get like seaweed in there
Seaweed,
and stuff like that
yeah.
and stuff. So that'll be super exciting.
Never need to drink anything else.
Yeah, that's it.
Sign me up.
When you were talking about New York, it made me think about the liquor license process there. And there's actually like two kinds of licenses you can get. One is to serve all different kinds of alcohol, and then another one is to serve beer and wine only. And the stronger spirits are, are not, you're not permitted to serve those. It's a little bit of an easier license to get, but because vermouth starts as wine, it's included in the beer and wine license. Because it's fortified versus even if you distill something down to the same ABV, if it starts off as a higher strength spirit, you can't serve it in the beer and wine license. And it made me wonder if you had seen any just in terms of trends, everyone's kind of talking about low alcohol or lower alcohol cocktails, and I'm wondering if that's something that you're seeing a renewed a newer interest in the vermouth because of the whole interest in low alcohol cocktails and that kind of thing.
Yeah, 100% actually. It's a really cool, so any of the wine bars that have it, like who can't serve a gin and tonic, who can't do that sort of thing, they're suddenly like, they can serve two different main options. And number one is you can have a V&T, which is the lower ABV, which is amazing. And then the other one is a Valentia Spritz. So, because that is just our vermouth and a fizzy wine. So it can be Prosecco, Cava, whatever you want it to be. So it basically allows, those sort of wine bars to be able to have that element of like what would be a gin and tonic or that sort of like quite thirst quenching drink. And a lot of shops, what do I call them? Like even coffee shops, like they'll just have like they'll have a load of wine. They just have the wine license. So they've been so interested in having us on their shelves as well, haven't they? So it's been cool, and so that's quite a big thing in New York as well, is it? Where people have just got a wine license for that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the places there is a big wine bar scene there, and obviously that's a really big wine bar, small plates, and so the beer and wine license is a little easier to get than the full liquor license. So
yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, it's been our angle. It's been our angle here. So sure, I mean, absolutely, yeah. But knowing it's a real trend over there is good to know. So yeah,
definitely,
Max.
Cool. What? Oh, I had one more question. How have you all found it to work together, and how have you split up the work of running a business together? Is it there are certain things that each of you specialize in, or you just kind of each do everything, and how did that come about?
I can definitely answer that.
Okay.
So, who's head of communications?
So we, that business that we were talking about, our immersive theatre and fine dining events. So we had that for 5 years, and my God, the amount of mistakes that we made. And loads of those mistakes were about us working as a couple. And it was just like everything that you said, that you were just saying there about like what roles those roles weren't clear in our previous business, all this kind of stuff. So we promised ourselves for this one that we try very hard not to make the same mistakes as before. So we have there's loads of big strict boundaries in place. So we're not really allowed to talk about work at home. It used to be we weren't allowed to talk about work at the kitchen table, and then it kind of was actually, I don't think anywhere at home is allowed actually.
Yeah,
So,
or if you start talking, if you're I've got something and it's a little bit work related,
Yeah.
and you can be like, Okay.
Yeah.
And then at any point you can call that conversation.
Like, it's too detailed.
If it gets too detailed, it's like
Yeah.
detailed meeting.
Put it in a meeting
Yeah.
for Tuesday or whatever.
Yeah.
So that happens, and we're both quite good at that. And then roles wise, so we kind of basically say that. So Anna, after Anna was doing, so how we got into immersive theatre, fine dining from art school, was Anna was working for TV and video production, TV and film production, and also theatre. And you worked on some really big events as operations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry.
It was really good ones. It was like Burberry fashion shows and like MTV Music Awards, like that sort of stuff. So it was like, you know, big stuff.
Yeah.
So Anna's so she knows how to deal with like really big sites, operations, logistics, and just like, I don't know, just the operations and logistics of trucks arriving and, you know, this kind of thing. So Anna is director of operations and logistics, and I'm director of communications and business development. But how we basically break it up.
I love how you're like trucks and things. Like all...
wonderful communication lads.
Yeah.
So basically, and then that's it, is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think. We're still learning because the business is just like growing, and like you have to just do everything. So there's loads of hats, like
right.
But you know, we're like still trying to work out, you know, exactly who does what, because there's new things popping up all the time. But we're doing a good job on trying to sort of like make sure that we're wives and business partners and all that sort of stuff. So it's good.
If you ever need another thing to fill your time, you should do some consulting for partners that also are in business together.
Like us.
Yeah.
I was just I'm just sitting here.
Yeah, what are your tips?
No, I think
we
we're
managed to
taking notes right
survive.
now.
Yeah, no. I'm actually thinking, because we work from home, I'm actually thinking like we should just get an office so that we could then have that rule.
Yeah.
Because we also have two kids, and it's like hard to sometimes we're so busy working that we don't get a chance to like talk about all the things we need to talk about or other things, and we find ourselves talking about them in front of the kids, and that can't be fun for them.
So like before because like getting an office, well, you know, it's not going to happen tomorrow or whatever, but you could. I feel as though you're in an office at the moment. Are you both in?
They're opposite.
Yeah,
we're in the same room. We're
so like you could absolutely confine it to that room. Is there anything? Does there anything else happening in that room?
Not really.
No.
Yeah, I think you could. And then when you're outside the door, and you have to be really strict, and the other person has to be really on board with the strictness. You know, like you have to be really like. As in, okay, yeah, we are doing this together. But the one thing that I did want to say to you both is that, like, if you have kids as well, that's a whole other story. You know, like, so you basically have like loads of businesses that you have to keep like going. You've got your marriage, that's a business. You've got your actual business. I think you've got a few other actual businesses as well. And then you have children. Like, they're like,
that's a lot.
Yeah. So like, fair play.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, well done.
Well done.
Thanks.
So we'll have to do another session in a couple of weeks. We'll follow up with you.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well,
thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. It was great to talk to you. We're looking forward to watching you grow, welcoming you here into the U.S., and enjoying more of your vermouth.
Thank you so much, Kate. Thank you, Max. It has been wonderful to talk to you both.
Yeah, really amazing. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Cool.
Thanks. Dyed Green is a project of Bog and Thunder, whose mission is to highlight the best in Irish food and culture. Join us in Ireland on one of our guided tours in 2025, or contact us to find out more about planning a custom trip just for you.
Find out more at bogandthunder.com. You can listen to our entire archive at dyedgreen.com. Please follow us on your favorite podcast apps and leave us a review if you like the episode.
And if you just can't get enough of Kate's opinions, you can find more of them at katemccabe.substack.com, where she writes regularly. Sign up there and get them delivered to your inbox.